Riccardo Calafiori. It looks as though Arsenal are very close to finalising a deal to sign the Italian defender from Bologna. We need to talk a lot more about this and what position he could play for them and how it will all work out. And so for that, Gab, let's start with you. How close are Arsenal with this deal for the defender?
Well, I think the deal is already in place in terms of personal terms with the player. I think it's squared away with Bologna as well, but I think Arsenal want to get some ducks in a row. I think they want to find a home for Jakub Kiwior. Also, obviously, another left-footed center back. And obviously, you don't want to be in a situation where, you need to shift a player to balance your books or to allow you to go maybe sign other players you want to sign. And everybody knows that because obviously that weakens your position. So I think that's generally been the snagging point until now.
Obviously, there's been some other teams interested, Gab. Why is it that Arsenal is the one that Calafiori is going for, and how is it that Mikel Arteta is going to play this player? Where's he looking to play him? Because obviously he can play centre-back, he can play left-back.
Well, look, I mean, I think so to answer the first part of your question, he's always had a thing for ball-playing, left-footed centre-backs, right? They are a currency in football, if you will. I think they got on this one early. They got out ahead of everybody. I think Calafiori likes the way Arsenal play. It's an attractive place to be. He's coming from Bologna, obviously. Nice city, Champions League team actually next season, but obviously Arsenal another level, the lure of the Premier League. I think all these things come into it, but I think they also presented a very clear plan of what they would like him to do. And I think what they would like him to do is essentially, and we saw this during the season with the left back position where sometimes it was Kiwior, sometimes it was Tomiyasu. They kind of moved away from if you will, the Zinchenko type left back. Jurriën Timber would have played there had he not been injured. And I think they want a left back who's kind of more of a defender. And I think Calafiori fits that. I would imagine there'll be some competition between Calafiori and a fit Timber to play left back or to back up as the left-sided center back position. Both are versatile players, and both can do that.
I think it's a good fit from what you saw from him during the Euros, Craig.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's a lot of money, but it's not crazy. He's a good age, he's got good experience. He's obviously a very, very good player, and he can play in a couple of different positions, at least at minimal. He can play in a couple of different positions, and it gives him the option, of course, if he wants to go to a back three. And we see this with teams sometimes. They start with a four. Sometimes when they have the ball, they go to a three and then back to a four, and it sort of switches in the modern game. As Gab rightly mentioned, Timber was out for the bulk of last season. Very good player, also very versatile, and they've got two really good centre halves as it is, in Gabriel and Saliba. So I think this is good business again. And they tried this sort of Zinchenko. It was okay for a bit, and then Kiwior came in because he was a little bit more solid. The Zinchenko thing, I think, worked better when Xhaka was there and he could go and help him. And then he left for Leverkusen. And then Zinchenko we started to see his deficiencies defensively. He was all right when he stepped into the middle of the park, could play some passes like he did at Manchester City and does for Ukraine. But I think defensively, he wasn't as solid as Arteta would like or knows he needs if they're going to win the Premier League and start really being in amongst the elite at all the big competitions. So, for that kind of money, a player with that quality in this age, I think it's really, really good business.
Yes, adding on to what Craig's saying, you can see why Mikel Arteta is reported to have made him the top defensive target for his team this summer.
Well, they're just trying to mirror what they've done on the right-hand side with Ben White. So that Saka can... Ben White lets Saka concentrate on going forward and doing his stuff in the final third. And they're going to try and do the same, whether it's Martinelli or anybody else on that left-hand side. So it's a complete mirror image of what Ben White's been doing. And on the face of it and on paper, it looks like a great fit.
Effectively, you could have four centre-backs across that back four. Although Ben White predominantly has played full-back, For Arsenal, he is effectively, when he signed from Brighton, he's a centre-half. So and we've seen managers do that before. So it could effectively be, I think he's looking for more solidity to allow, this midfield and very, attacking front line that they have and wide players, and Stevie mentioned it, and the pacey players, just to give them more of a freedom to go and play. And also, Arteta knows this. If you're going to win the Premier League or any league, you need a good squad. You need a deep squad, and this kind of signing helps that defensive position in terms of who's available. I mean, if Timber's fit and available and all these guys stay fit, that's a good choice of defensive players that he can rotate.
What they'll be able to do is squeeze the ball a lot more and a lot higher, because effectively they've got 4 defenders and Rice, and so teams won't be able to get out. So when you have a deficiency, as Zinchenko, that can't really defend particularly well, then teams can get out down that side. Along with what Calafiori can do going forward, with what he does defensively, teams are going to struggle to get out and get at Arsenal.
So before I get to you, Frank, on what this means for their title chances this year, just to go back to you, Gab, how highly do you actually rate Calafiori? Obviously, you've seen a lot of him with Bologna.
I mean, he certainly had a tremendous season. He's part of kind of this new generation of Italian defenders. Scalvini, the other obvious one, who wasn't at the Euros because he was injured. Bastoni, a little bit older as well, who are very comfortable on the ball, which is kind of a new thing. And I think you can use him in different ways. He's also played defensive midfield in the past. You mentioned Granit Xhaka there. Obviously a left footer in that position. I'm not saying he can, he's a Granit Xhaka type necessarily, but he is a bit of a Swiss Army knife, as is Timber. And what the boys mentioned about, the 4 center backs across the back line. Well, I'm not saying he got the idea from him, but, his old boss, Pep Guardiola, what he's been doing this season is playing 4 center backs across the back line, plus Rodri in front of them. So I think there is a little bit of, I'm not saying he's copying him, but you could say that there is maybe a bit of a mini trend, certainly between Arsenal and City in that sense.
All right, Frank, what does this do for their title chances? Can they finally end City's reign? How much does this elevate them, getting a player like Calafiori in the back line there?
It makes them better, for sure. For sure, because they needed that option on the left side, where they were a little bit weaker than other positionings. And it gives a lot of options to Arteta. Arteta learned his lesson, I think, when 2 years ago Saliba got injured. I think he wants to keep the wide Saka pair working very well on the right side. And in case Saliba or Gabriel gets injured, Calafiori can come in the middle and play centre backs, but having him on the left side brings something special. And as Stevie said, if he can pair on the left side with Martinelli like Wise does with Saka, that's the big strength, and the power can come from everywhere. As Craig also mentioned, you need a squad. You cannot think about, okay, I got Gabriel and Saliba and that's enough. And if one of them get injured, you're in trouble. Therefore, he has a backup, and that's a big option. I think it's a very good catch.
Is this
and he's going to make them much better. Sorry.
Is it the year?
Is it the year Guardiola leaves Man City? I don't know. I mean, it's like, De Bruyne had a patchy season, injury last year, came in, looked pretty good, then looked a bit leggy again at the end of FA Cup final. Champions League, he's been a key player for them. There's talk about Alvarez possibly going to Spain. Julian Alvarez, and you think, people were just watching, saying, well, he's a squad player. Well, maybe he doesn't play every week, but he played a lot last year and he covers a lot of positions. Very, very good player. So it just depends who sort of comes and goes, if anybody. Clearly, the bookies, I think, are right. The City are still favourites, but with Liverpool making a change in manager and a lot of backroom staff going, you just don't quite know what's going to happen there. And there is no doubt Arsenal are, I think, going to be the team to go again. But until they dethrone this City side And we'll still ask the question, I suppose, about, you know, spending money in these positions is, you know, Martinelli was a little bit inconsistent at times last year, and he did make some changes in that position. Trossard did a very good job coming in. Will he look to back up those positions? And will he look to back up, and is there any money available to go out and replace Kai Havertz with somebody who's playing every week there? You know, Ivan Toney was mentioned last year. There have been others. I just don't know what the financial situation is for them to do that. But I do feel that if they are going to beat City, it's not just the back of the field and the midfield. They're going to have to look, I think, maybe the left-hand side, and definitely somebody who's going to do what people get paid the biggest bucks to do, put the ball in the back of the net.
Stevie, they've been so close.
Yeah, I do. I think this is the year, you know, and part of my argument is history. You know, Man City broke all records by winning it 4 times in the trot last year, 5 times in the trot. I mean, everything's against that. And as Craig was saying, people like De Bruyne, Silva, you know, can they go again and be as good as they've been over the last 5 or 6 seasons? Whereas you've got Arsenal coming along, you've got the signing of Calafiori, you've got that desire, that hunger is absolutely going to be there. Yes, the one question would be the Havertz situation. But the truth is, second part of the season, he came up trumps, came up big time scoring goals. So if he can do that again this season, then Arsenal absolutely are the team that can knock City off the perch.
What do you think, Gab?
I mean, look, they're certainly up there. I don't think this team is necessarily complete. I know a lot of people think that, you know, they should go out and look to sign another center forward for, I mean, Stevie just mentioned Havertz there, maybe an alternative, maybe an upgrade on Eddie Nketiah off the bench. Personally, I'd like to see them pick up another central midfielder, simply because, you know, Jorginho's a year older in certain games. I don't know you necessarily want him out there. I think Declan Rice does his best work when he's free to sort of bomb forward alongside Odegaard, as opposed to when he's just anchoring and has to be purely defensive. And obviously Thomas Partey, you know, injuries last season, other questions off the pitch. You know, maybe somebody off the bench who can fill that role. But you know, maybe if they move Emile Smith-Rowe, they'll have the funds for that. But I think we're talking tweaks. I mean, I think they are in a position, certainly where I mean, they have to be to take that final step and challenge City.
What else do you think it says, Frank, that we're seeing players like this, where there's the likes of Real Madrid and Juventus reported to be interested in his services, and it is Arsenal that they're choosing?
Interested of which player? Sorry?
With Calafiori, he's had a lot of interest from some other big clubs, and it's Arsenal, it seems, that he really wants to go to.
I think, well, unless you're very much wanted by Real Madrid, I think Arsenal is a very good option. There is a bright future coming up. You know that you're going to play. You know that it's ambitious. You play in the best league in the world for me. And so you have to go. So, of course, you have other clubs interested. It can be also about money. But he's 22. He's very young. He has to be ambitious in the way of winning silverwares and not earning money. And I think it's a very good option. You have Manchester City, but I think it's already taken. You have Real Madrid. We already know that it's taken. You already have 2 players. Even Camavinga can play on the left side. So the competition is going to be harder for Calafiori, where he knows that his first choice for Arteta on the left side. And then what is important for a player is to play. For me, that would be the calculation that I would make. And going to Arsenal, knowing that Arsenal is getting closer and closer every year, that it could be the year to win the Premier League, that's a very good thought to think about coming to the Gunners.